Hello there, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Miku and in today's video I will be showing you my Inktober 2023 sketchbook. This was my second time attending to this challenge and first time when doing it traditionally with ink and paper. I felt that the prompts for last year's Inktober would fit well together with fantasy themed illustrations, so I decided to give it a try, and since I wanted to draw all sorts of magical places and beings on the pages of this book, I decided to use some alcohol-based markers to give my illustrations that colorful look that I feel suits well with the fantasy illustrations. The sketchbook itself has toned paper, but I used white paper to draw this cover art for the book, to give a little hint of the contents of this book. The prompt for the first day was dream. Immediately I got this image in my mind about a sleeping halfling traveler, maybe at the beginning of his journey, sleeping in the lush green forest on soft mossy ground with a blissful smile on his face. I'm really happy with this illustration and I feel it works well as the first illustration of this sketchbook, as it not only depicts the beginning of these characters' adventures, but also kind of symbolizes the beginning of my journey with this Inktober challenge. For the next day, the prompt was spiders. In this illustration, our character is venturing through gloomy and unpleasant forest full of huge spider webs and then facing these terrifying creatures that come out of the murk of the trees. As a small detail, I made the branches of the trees to look like hands trying to reach and grab any who is brave or fool enough to venture into the forest. On the third day, the prompt was path. I imagined a dungeon deep under the mountain and a group of adventurers crossing a huge crevasse, after which they would need to follow a path made of skulls. I imagined that it would not be a pleasant path to walk on, but like someone wise once said that
it's a dangerous business going out your door. You step onto the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be swept off to.
The prompt for the fourth day was dodge. Dodge, 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 dodge. I think it's dodge. I drew this elven fighter in the midst of an arrow volley, dodging the incoming arrows. I imagine doing this in real life would be quite of a challenge and would not want to try out myself. For the next day, the prompt was map. Here you can see an old wizard reading his map and wisely counseling which way to go.
Go to the cavern.
On the sixth day, the prompt was golden. I drew a golden ring and a hand of smoke around it. This was one of those drawings that first felt like it's doomed to fail and the end result will be horrible to look at. But after I just continued working on it, it started to look okay, and now I actually like how it turned out. It's nowhere near what I had first intended it to be, but knowing how I felt doing it, I feel I came out victoriously. The prompt for the seventh day was drip. So I drew this massive spider monster thing towering over some stairs on the mountainside. You can see that she has a sting that is dripping something green. To draw this, I used John Howe's painting of Shelob as a reference image. John Howe's work has inspired me for now at least 20 years. His artworks really are like magic and a wonderful source of endless inspiration and also great pieces to study from. For the next day, the prompt was toad. If in the previous image I was trying to get cold and sinister mood to the piece, here I wanted to go completely other direction and draw an illustration full of warmth, joy and peace. So I drew a house next to a small, quiet lake where these toads live. Maybe the place is called Toad Lake or Frog Pond. I imagine it is a place where one can come and enjoy their retirement days in peace and enjoy life without worrying about all the hustle of the world outside the forest. This is one of my favorite illustrations on the sketchbook and one that I've been given most positive feedback. So many who have already seen these illustrations have enjoyed this particular illustration. I personally love it because of the vibrant colors and composition. If I could have a chance to visit this place and spend a few weeks there, I would have a wonderful time exploring these forests and watching these toads, and during the evenings drinking tea and reading a nice book inside the house in a nice armchair. On the 9th day, the prompt was bounce. I drew these creepy hands trying to grab one of these travelers. I wanted to convey the feeling of a night and make a scene which is lit only by moonlight. But I did not feel like using deep blue colors, which would easily be the first choice for this type of illustration. So I decided to use only different shades of grey. The only color that I used besides grey was very dark greyish green for the forest in the background. I wanted it to be really dark to make the foreground where all the action happens to pop up. The prompt for the 10th day was fortune. For this I imagined a cave of some troll or ogre, and that cave would be filled with treasures, long lost artifacts, gems and coins which once belonged to travelers who unfortunately ventured too close to that troll's lair and ultimately were caught and robbed by this large creature. For the next day the prompt was wander. Here we have these two travelers wandering in the forest, hiking upwards, maybe to the top of some mountain or just to see a bit better where they might be heading next. I wanted to try to use my marker straight on top of my pencil drawing to make the image look more painterly. I was especially interested how the shadow areas would look like, since they were going to stay relatively light for the pencil work to still show through after the colors were added. I really liked the end result, and I used the same method for some of the other illustrations on the sketchbook as well, which you will see later as we continue onwards. Speaking of moving onwards, on the 12th day the prompt was spicy. I decided to draw a glass bottle full of spicy sauce. I did not have a huge expectations for this, but I have to admit that this is one of my favorite illustrations on the sketchbook. The simplicity with smooth lines and soft looking shapes make this image really appealing to me. The prompt for the 13th day was rise. I wanted to create a night scene with massive full moon on the sky, lighting the scene with its gloomy light. I tried to create as much depth in the image as I possibly could with my chosen color palette. My goal was to give this illustration a feeling of vast wilderness that does not seem to have an end, and that somewhere there lies this one hill with a ruined watchtower on top of it, giving shelter to those who need it. This one again is one of those illustrations I did not really enjoy at first, but now I do feel that it actually turned out pretty cool. On the 14th day the prompt was castle. Where the previous illustration was cold in color and mood, this one I wanted to be warm and full of light. The setting sun paints everything in warm tones of orange and yellow. There's a golden grassland with some white rocks and white mountains with a majestic castle built on the side of that mountain. A city of long and great history with art and culture and trade and everything, and probably has very expensive living in there. On the 15th day the prompt was dagger. I did not want to draw just a lonely small dagger, so instead I drew this rock statue of a hooded figure holding a dagger. Although according to the size of that blade it is more like a sword than a dagger. Very fast and simple drawing on that day. The prompt for the next day was angel. I did not feel like drawing an actual angel, so I decided to stretch the concept of this prompt a little and decided to draw a character who would be considered to be as beautiful as an angel. The prompt for the 17th day was demon. Like in my illustration for the 11th, which was about wandering, here I also decided to color straight on top of my pencils to create a smooth appearance for this creature, as if it was not made completely from hard material, but also something else. For the next day, the prompt was saddle. To draw only a single saddle was not inspiring, and I have always struggled with drawing horses, so I got a good opportunity to remind myself about those animals. Drawing animals is something that I should do more often, and of course the steed needed a fierce-looking rider. The prompt for the 19th day was plump, so I drew this gentle-looking dwarf escaping danger. Maybe he has just put accidentally someone's house on fire, or he has met some trolls and tries to escape them. Who knows? I like this combination of these red and blue hues. They fit together quite well and makes the image vivid. I also think these pants came out nicely. Not super realistic, but it feels like there is some volume there. Overall, I like this one very much. For the 20th day, the prompt was frost. This one is again one of my favorites. We have this vast snowy landscape in the mountains with some ruins and a lonely wizard on his quest, lighting the dark night with his stuff and trying to get to this castle. Over the course of this challenge, I found that these limited color palettes of just different grey tones and one or two colors make really nice pieces. The colorful stuff is also good, but I feel you get the most out of these toned papers when you use fewer colors and rely more on just the color of the paper, varying it with different grey tones. For the next day, the prompt was chains. This one is again very simple illustration. I just drew this troll creature with chain and spear. I wanted it to look big and bulky and that the illustration could somehow show the mass of this creature. Next day's prompt was scratchy. I had not done these full-page illustrations for a few days, so I wanted to create a big, colorful illustration out of this prompt. A scratched, shattered shield was the first thing that came to my mind, and I decided to stick with that. There was another autumn piece in the beginning which had the toad lake. On that one, the colors of the autumn foliage were vibrant and saturated, but in here, since I tried to capture the essence of sorrow and loss and to create more moody illustration, the colors are a bit more muted and grayish, so that it emphasizes those themes. On the 23rd day, the prompt was celestial. I imagined that in this imaginative world where the illustrations of the sketchbook take place, there would be citadels with towers that would reach higher than any other building in that world, and that these towers were out of reach for only but few, and that from there, when looked out of the windows, the sight would be otherworldly and celestial. On the 24th day, the prompt was shallow. I imagined this shallow stream or river. To set a sense of scale, I needed something small to the foreground, something that would show how shallow the stream actually is. So I drew this potion bottle that someone had thrown to the stream, maybe to get rid of it or maybe to let be found by someone else later. For the next day the prompt was dangerous. And trust me, this thing here is very dangerous. At least for that fish. Next day's prompt was remove. So I drew this animal-loving fellow, and really he just has to love animals since he's willing to let them live underneath his hat. On the 27th day the prompt was beast. I wanted to draw something epic after a couple of more simple drawings, so I made this duel scene between this blonde fighter and this ghostly rider with his winged beast. Love how the cloak turned out, and I feel that there is a good sense of scale. Orange and green are almost complementary colors, so it helps the main characters to pop up from the rest of the illustration. I'm really happy how this one turned out. Next day's prompt was sparkle. Simple stuff with simple sparks, with simple gradient on the stuff. This has to be easily the least effort I have given to a drawing in this sketchbook, but even if bad, it's still a drawing, so all good. Let's forget this one and move onwards to better stuff. And that better stuff would be wildly better, massively better, since the next day's prompt was massive. Here we have this monstrous leg of something that is epic in scale, being just crushing this little goblin creature underneath its terrifying weight. In this picture the scale of the tree thing comes clearer because of this goblin creature here. We easily assume that it is similar size than what we humans are, and thus give us a scale of everything else on this illustration.
For the next day,
the prompt was rush, but I did not want to rush this one, yet I still wanted it to feel lively and give the character the feeling of movement and, well, rush. But as you can see, it is a happy rush. He's in a hurry, but we can see that something joyful is awaiting him. Maybe it's the end of this Inktober challenge, or it might be the final illustration for this Inktober challenge, which will lead us to the last prompt of Inktober 2023, which was fire.
A burning hot, bright red, and smoky fire that stirs from an evil spirit of long-forgotten foe.
I had an image of this in my mind since the day one, and I was super excited and terrified at the same time to get to draw this one. This was either going to be successful or absolute failure. There is this smoky figure reaching towards viewer,
But then at the same time the flames and smoke create sort of an eye-shaped form in the middle which the flames surround completely. I'm super happy how this one turned out. I'm glad I was able to finish this challenge. It took quite a lot of time to make all these illustrations, and since I also have a full-time job, finding time and energy to draw every day for a month was a challenge on its own. But I do recommend this challenge to everyone, regardless of their skill level. And I feel that doing this challenge with traditional art tools is way more rewarding and actually easier than making it digitally. I did the Inktober 2022 digitally and I found myself trying to get every line as perfect as I possibly could. But with real ink and paper I found that I was much more forgiving to myself and the illustrations came out with much more life in them. Another tip for you is that since nowadays Inktober prompts are revealed already in September, make it your advantage and sketch all your drawings before October. That will save you some time and it really helps you to get through this challenge. I did not sketch every illustration here beforehand and it really was an instant regret. So don't do like me and be smart instead. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you get any ideas or thoughts from it or have any questions for me, feel free to leave a comment down below. That's it for now. Always remember to have fun with art and never stop creating. I'll be back with the next video. Bye.